Welcome to Leading Edge Conversations, empowering corporates, financial advisors, and retirement fund members with insights that matter. Brought to you by Liberty Corporate Benefits, this series dives into the future of employee benefits, regulatory strategies, and financial empowerment. Thought Leadership Amplified. Tune in and stay ahead.
Hello and welcome to Leading Edge Conversations, the podcast from Liberty Corporate Benefits, where we explore how smart employee benefit strategies benefit not only your business, but also help your people to thrive and be empowered as well. I'm your host, Nontutshugo Mhlungu, and in today's episode, we're making a business case for employee benefits and exploring the link between employee benefits, retention, as well as productivity. We find ourselves in an interesting time where attracting and keeping the right talent has become more competitive than ever. And so the benefits you offer, how you package and communicate them has become increasingly important. To help me unpack all of these issues and to break it down and take away all the jargon, we've got our guests and experts in studio, Darshana as well as Khotso. Welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you for the opportunity. Hello.
Thank you for joining me. All right, so let's not waste any time and jump right onto it. I'm going to start with you, Darshana. Why do you think it's important for employers to offer employee benefits to employees?
Well, employers will want to attract and retain good quality staff. Mm-hmm. Those are the staff and individuals that are highly productive and ultimately help drive a positive and healthy bottom line. Now, employers will want to look after these staff, particularly in an environment that is highly competitive within our country right now. And so one way to do that is to offer employee benefits. And that is benefits over and above the standard monetary compensation that they receive in the form of salaries. And so we know, as we know within our work environment and every other work environment out there, that people are stressed. People have anxiety about their own personal issues. And where employee benefits helps is that it assists in reducing some of that stress and giving those employees some peace of mind so that they can focus on their job at hand.
So I love that you spoke about attracting the talent. So at the beginning, I said it's about attracting and retaining the talent, right? So maybe just to move on to my next question, what are some of the key things that employers need to be keeping in mind when designing some of these benefits? I know it can be quite complex, but what should they be keeping in mind given what you just spoke about, anxiety and some of the things that employees experience in the workplace?
So you hit the nail on the head when you said it's about retaining them, because that's vitally important. Yeah. It's one thing getting these really great talent in, but you need to make sure that you continuously retaining them. And so one of the fundamental considerations to make as an employer is to think about what the needs are of those employees. Within any organization, there's a range of employees, and every individual is different. Everyone has a different background, has different circumstances at home, family structures, religious beliefs, and so forth. The list goes on. And an employer needs to recognize where those differences lie and put employee benefits in place that help address those needs so that whatever is provided to those employees adds value to them. And so by thinking about it in that manner, these benefits will ultimately assist the overall well-being of the employees throughout their working journey.
And I think to add to that, the benefit just doesn't stop with the employee. It extends to the employee's family.
Absolutely.
You as an employer have a responsibility not only to your company, but to actually the wider community that you serve. We know that in a country that like ours, with high unemployment, we have often people in your organizations that are breadwinners where they come from. So these benefits extend to their families and their extended families to that degree as well. So employers really need to apply themselves to the benefits that they want to offer their employees.
And Khotso, maybe just a follow-up question on that, it must be quite tricky, I would imagine, for an employer because, as you mentioned, South Africa is diverse. And if you're talking about families, it's quite dynamic. And so it's not a one-size-fits-all designing benefits that are going to be beneficial, I guess, for all employees. I mean, how does that work?
You know, we often say that there's unity in diversity, a key theme in the country, and sometimes it can find itself difficult to express itself in the workplace because, as you said, we come from different environments, different backgrounds, and therefore have different needs. Engagement and collaboration then becomes very important from an employer to employee, and having the right sort of institution in terms of financial service provider there to walk you through that journey. We do acknowledge and understand that this is not a core part of your business. You are here from a production point of view, but employee benefits are critical now in terms of where we are as a country. And we know that statistics, depending on which ones you look at, will tell you that roughly about 30% of employees are actually unbanked for retirement and employee benefits. So that's a large group of employed people that don't have access to these critical benefits.
So maybe just to follow up on what you've just said, I find it interesting. You said employers don't just design the benefits for the employees, but for their families and communities at large. And I think that could be quite a tricky thing to navigate. How do employers navigate the complexities of designing benefits for a diverse workforce like we have in South Africa?
Very good question. We often talk about the unity in diversity in this country, and as simple as that may sound, from a workspace point of view, can be pretty difficult to navigate, given that we all come from different backgrounds. And as you can acknowledge, with the different backgrounds that we come from, we naturally have different needs. It's then important that as an employer and as an employee, you partner with the right sort of financial service provider to help you navigate these certain complexities that you'll have to go through on a monthly basis. These credible financial services companies are there to walk hand in hand with you and collaborate and ensure that the benefits that you have for your employees meet their everyday needs.
Absolutely. It's not a one-size-fits-all. It's got to speak to the diverse workforce. All right, Tashana, let's come back to you. How do employee benefits link up to retention and productivity in the workplace? Is there a link there?
Well, certainly, there's definitely a link. We know that employees are assets to an organization. They're ultimately the backbone of the company, helping to drive a healthy bottom line. And so those individuals need to be looked after. By providing employee benefits that are suitable to meet their needs, their individual circumstances, they are ultimately feel that they're valued and they're looked after. So their overall well-being is in a more positive state. They are less stressed. They have a better peace of mind. And so what that means is they're able to focus on their job. And in many instances, you actually find that they end up taking less sick leave. So overall, they end up being more productive in the workplace. And ultimately helping to achieve those business objectives that the employer wants them to do.
It's all about holistic well-being, right? And I'm going to come to you, Khotsa, and perhaps you can add on to what she just said. Is there a way to establish that the benefits are adding value and that they're not just a tick box exercise that companies need to adhere to, but we can actually measure the value? And perhaps, this is to add on to the productivity question that she's just answered, but if you can maybe just expand on that a little bit.
And that has been the evolution of employee benefits, where I guess so many decades ago it was more of a tick box for organizations to ensure that they meet their needs. Legislation has evolved over time, and our industry has evolved to make employee benefits sort of a critical part of any corporate. You need to have days like wellness days, engagements with HR and line management, engagements with your financial services provider on an ongoing basis to ensure, things that we take for granted, like employee records, like updating benefits. If you have a new spouse or a new family member that joined you, those things can sort of fall by the wayside in terms of, addressing them immediately, but they become a critical part of your family story. It's not an employee as a number, employee is a person.
Absolutely.
And their journey is very important, and you've got to take that very seriously. And I think employees are fully aware of that and are becoming far more engaged, I think, in the new world of hybrid working, that, employee wellness and retention has really, really taken a life of its own. And you can't just be an employer coming into the workplace thinking that you paid salaries and your work is done. That critical workforce is going to drive your profitability and ultimately the growth of the organization.
I love that continuous engagement. You have to, I mean, look, we all know that we get the surveys in our inbox all the time. And so it's important that, yes, the surveys are sent, but then that they're completed and they're reflecting that, hey, what we're actually doing is driving engagement. The people are engaged. They're not taking sick leave. So that continuous engagement is very critical.
And I think also to add to that continuous engagement, it isn't a continuous engagement as if you are also trying to do a tick box, right?
Yes.
And that at least you fulfilled your part of engagement.
Yeah.
Engagement is very social in its nature when you're dealing with people's needs. And so you need to be very deliberate and very purposeful in the sort of engagements that you have with your employees, whether it be on your wellness day, whether it be on a weekly basis where you have surveys that you have as an organization. Those are very important in terms of engaging how your important asset in that organization is working towards thriving and succeeding in the business.
Absolutely. And I think just to touch on this, because I think it plays a part, a culture. I think it's the two are very closely linked, the culture and the organization. If it's a culture where your people feel heard, then they're going to be more inclined to complete that survey and to be as honest as possible and not feel like they're also just ticking a box. But I think the culture also plays an important part in that engagement and how it takes place. Khotso, you mentioned earlier on that corporate benefits is not the core part of the business, but it certainly can be used as a strategy to achieve those business outcomes. What are some of the regulatory or legislative considerations that, a company needs to consider in designing some of these benefits, especially because, like you mentioned, it's not a core part of the business, but it's an important element of the business and its overall success?
I think, from a legislative point of view, they are the obvious benefits such as leave, your UIFs, that obviously are important as a tenant in terms of benefits, but how the further benefits speak to the needs of the employees is of vital importance, because it can be the difference between a talent wanting to be part of the organization or choosing to be with your competitor. It is a game of margins, and it's important that you do not use legislation as a means of trying to curtail paying or paying a level of cost that's uncomfortable for you. It's important that you use compliance and legislation to empower your organization and your people to ensure that you meet the needs as legislated for employee benefits. You use it to empower rather than a deterrent.
Interesting. And as a follow-up question to what you just said, benefits administration can be complex in nature. And so for the SME, perhaps, what are some of the ways to streamline this process that can be rather complex without taking away the value from it?
Certainly. Our industry has really developed and mushroomed into an area now most commonly known as umbrella funds. This is a concept and a structure that is meant to help particularly your smaller employers that don't have the time budget in place to construct their own employee benefits. It is an avenue that's meant to streamline using the latest technologies available with all the information available to their employees to plug them into a already built up system and structure an architecture of employee benefits that makes it easier for you as an employee to communicate and interact with us as an FSP as well as with your employees.
All right, so let's bring you back into the conversation then, Darshana. Maybe tell us a little bit about Liberty's approach to corporate benefits. What approach does Liberty take when it comes to this?
So Liberty certainly takes a holistic approach in the way we craft the benefits and design them for the purpose of creating value for employers and employees. So, for example, we offer umbrella solutions, which is made up of risk benefits. Those risk benefits providing some level of financial support in the event of death, disability, or becoming critically ill. And then investment solutions to help employees save towards a comfortable retirement at the end of their working career. Within that solution, there's also additional services. So offering things like trauma counseling, and repatriation services and so forth. There's a bundle of them. And then further to that, there are also additional services to assist with things like financial education. And And so there's quite a range. That is just a few that I've mentioned. But the idea is to offer a range that an employer can use to set up that will best suit the needs of their employees, add value to them, and ultimately provide those employees peace of mind. A critical element of this is also making sure that there is a seamless experience for those employees should they actually need to come and claim for those benefits. And that is a big focus within our organization as well, making sure that that employer and employee experience is seamless and not creating an additional burden for any of the stakeholders involved.
Khotso, you wanted to jump in there.
Yes, we ourselves are employees, and we obviously, I mean, to be frank and honest, we walk into an organization worried about the end of the month. We spend so much time in these organizations and probably pay little account to the benefits that are in place. So we do implore all employees, not just the employers, to have a look at their benefits that they have, because you are spending a considerable amount of your time every day of every year in that workplace. It's very important that you have an understanding of these employee benefits that are in place and question the employer on certain benefits that perhaps don't appear. It's very important for your own livelihood and that of your family that you pay close attention to these particular benefits.
I love that, because how many employees honestly take a look at their benefits or understand what's on there, the breakdown of it, and it's upon you to really understand what's going on and to ask the questions where you don't understand, right? So that continuous education and, of course, taking responsibility for your own benefits and asking the right questions. So thanks for adding that, Khotso. Then, Darsh, maybe talk to us a little bit about the care concept at Liberty. I know that's quite big, and how that plays into, you know, the well-being of all employees and the financial conversations that are happening around that concept.
So the care concept is literally just that, caring, making sure that as human beings, we acknowledge that we are working with human beings and that care is the center of how we do everything that we do. And that should stem through right into any organization. Employers need to make sure and be mindful about caring about their employees and be purposeful about it. Through that, one will naturally understand who their staff are, what their needs are, what their concerns are, and then put measures in place to help assist them in alleviating some of that strain. We know that it's one of the biggest stresses for employees is financial security, and by having certain employee benefits in place, that alleviates some of the stress related to that. So yes, the care narrative is really just about caring, but as human beings, it's natural for us to care about the person next to us. But the point here is to be purposeful about that.
You've got to be intentional.
Correct.
About caring, and the employees need to feel cared for. It can't just be a concept on a piece of paper somewhere. So I love that. So let's bring you back into the conversation. What advice would you give to a line manager or someone in HR who's trying to have these conversations about employee benefits with their employee? What are the things they should be saying? What are the things that they should be mindful of when sitting down with an employee?
We do not take lightly the responsibility of line management and HR when it comes to the issues of employee benefits. It is not an easy task because, as we said earlier, we're dealing with a diverse set of employees that you need to find common ground on issues of employee benefits. It's important, I think, from a HR perspective and a line management perspective, that you get all the necessary information from your financial services support or your advisor to ensure that you have the right information to dispense and communicate to your employees. It's important for you to interrogate the information that you do receive and then ensure that it aligns with the company's objectives when it comes to employee retention and employee well-being. Some of these can involve surveys, it can involve training that we do have here at Liberty. So it involves certain levels of collaboration and communication to empower HR and line management when it comes to dispensing of these benefits to their members.
And perhaps a follow-up on that, Khotso, how does Liberty support organizations in managing their employee benefits, but all while keeping people at the center, because people, like we have said, are at the heartbeat of any organization?
In our world, it's not an all while people are center people are the center, and that's why we do what we do.
Absolutely.
We're here to serve people and serve communities and transform society. So people are at the very center of that. We do have a very strong advisory workforce that you can communicate with, a very strong operation and administrative background, back office that you have at your disposal as an employer. Should you have any questions that you need addressed, we are here to make sure that we service you to the best of our abilities, to ensure that you as an employer are empowered, to ensure that you are able then to also support your employees with the most suitable and adequate employee benefits.
I love that. And we are going to close. I'm going to ask both of you this question. And I think you've mentioned it throughout our conversation today. Let me start with you, Darsh. For companies that still have a very transactional approach to employee benefits, and we're just ticking a box, how do they begin to move from that to really putting people at the center? Because that's really what it's about. Liberty seems to have nailed that and has it right. So how do companies move from that transactional approach to a more care or people-centric approach when it comes to employee benefits?
So we've spoken a bit about care, what that means, and the fact that employees at the end of the day are human beings. And so the first thing, or one of the most important things that employers can do, is to communicate. Make sure that those lines of communication are open for employees so that employees feel that they can approach their senior staff, line managers or top management with any concerns or issues that they might have. So it is important for those senior staff to actually create that open communication channels within their space first, so that employees within the broader organization feel comfortable to approach them with any concerns. And that's how the employer starts learning and understanding who their employees are and what their needs are. Ultimately, that moves the employer from being focused on more a transactional approach to providing employee benefits to truly providing tailor-made benefits that will ultimately add value to the employees by meeting their needs.
I love that. It again comes back to the culture where employees feel like they can communicate openly and there's trust and they can feel safe in communicating their needs. Khotso?
Transactional is an approach that we can never escape from. We understand the financial provisions. However, it is important, I think, and could probably mean so much to an employer, where you can derive value and meaning out of the transactions that you have with an organization like ours when you're wanting to look after your employees. So it's important that you as an employer as well are able to derive value and see that tangible value in terms of what it has meant for your employees. So again, the concept of collaboration, communication is very important. We know that we are living in a country that's under a lot of economic strain, and so every cent then therefore is very important going forward. So you should not have to worry about the cents that you are putting away for your employee benefits to be something that you cannot benefit from as an organization. You need to see it as an asset, as a tool to uplift and empower your employees.
Well, there you have it. Darsh and Khotso did a fantastic job at making a strong business case for employee benefits and why this is an important part for any strategy. From myself, Nonto Mhlungu, till next time, cheers.